Thank you very much, Scott, and good morning. Let me just say, first of all, how happy I am to be home this week. We've got some important issues to tackle here, right in my own congressional district in the East Bay, in the Bay Area, but also, as you know, in Washington, D.C. I'd like to thank the Bay Planning Coalition. John and Scott, I just have to say, I'm reminded today of the important work of the Bay, excuse me, Bay Planning Coalition and your history. And I was thinking earlier about Ellen Junk. I was in the California legislature. This was in the 90s. And we decided, everyone in my community and the port, of course, decided that dredging had to be a priority. But the state agencies really weren't coordinated. And we couldn't figure out what our state strategy should be. And so it was the Bay Planning Coalition with Ellen and with the Port of Oakland, with our environmental community and with our union and labor community, came to Sacramento and camped out in my office, at least for a couple of years until we got it together. And as a result of that, I just have to congratulate you for withstanding the test of time, but we finally got the Port of Oakland dredged to 50 feet. And I'm so proud of that entire effort. But I share with my colleagues because when President Clinton was president, we started the federal dredging process through the Word bill, and when we had earmarks, and earmarks are good, 90% of them come home to my district and our districts to create jobs and economic opportunity. But it was then that President Clinton worked with all of us to begin the dredging process at the federal level. And I just have to say, the California delegation and my colleagues in Congress also always marveled at how here we could pull together the environmental community, the business community, labor, and our unions to put together a plan that was win, 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 win. And it was because of the Bay Planning Coalition and all of you here today who were involved in the day that happened. And so I'm so pleased to see you staying the course and continuing to, fight the good fight on so many issues such as climate change and infrastructure and environmental and job creation and economic activity here in the Bay Area. As John mentioned, I'm very pleased that WRDA has finally passed out of the conference committee. You're going to hear a little bit more about that, but it'll be coming to the floor for a vote. And I just have to thank Senator Boxer, who chairs the Senate Energy and Public Works Committee, for working so hard on this bill. We need to make sure that our Army Corps projects are authorized so that we can end this project backlog that I know many of you know about, and make sure that our water infrastructure is ready for the 21st century. I was pleased to carry actually the first ferry service legislation when I was in Sacramento, and I'm pleased to see how our waterways now are being used as transitways, really, but we need more. We need more. And so hopefully we'll be able to get some of these projects on track. We also need to strike the right balance between delivering projects on time and protecting our environment. And I know how strong the support for this approach and this real agenda is here in the Bay Area with you, right here in this room. The Bay Planning Coalition, as I said earlier, understands what the Balancing Act really means in order to create economic activity and environmental, environmental justice in our region and job creation. Also, let me just say that our maritime industries really can't succeed without strong investment in surface infrastructure. And so as a member of the Congressional Ports Caucus, which I must say in Washington, D.C., really has gained a lot of momentum. We met last week with the Secretary of Transportation, Secretary Fox, to discuss the administration's plan for a transportation reauthorization bill, which is called Grow America Act. We must be vigilant, let the administration and let members of Congress know that this is important to you, important to our region, because I know that the administration is very serious in investing in our roads, transit, and rail, and understands the need for a national freight plan that takes into account the needs of our maritime industries. And so I'm saying here that we need a long-term bill that gives transportation agencies and private sector and private industry the certainty that they need to make the big investments in projects that we sorely need. Scott mentioned that I'm a member of the Appropriations Committee and the Budget Committee. And the Transportation, Housing, and Urban Development Bill is going to come up next week. Some of you here are interested in the Tiger grants, and just know that in the Appropriations Committee, I will be fighting to make sure that the funding for these projects, include projects such as Tiger grants and all of the investments in our national rail system. But again, it's going to be an uphill battle, and so your political action and your advocacy is very, very needed at this moment as we move these bills through the process. We're also going to be sure to be advocates to fund our ports when the energy and water bill comes up. Of course, Oakland finally, as I said earlier, we've done our dredging, but we still have other issues in our ports caucus that we want to address in the bill. Before I close, let me just say thank you again to the Bay Planning Coalition for focusing on sea level rise and climate change. So important. Once again, you're keeping up with the tide. You're really focused and far ahead of the rest of the country on the most important issues of our day. Here in the East Bay, we know that the shoreline is susceptible to sea level rise, while our critical Sacramento Delta region is really threatened by drought. We also know that climate change is real. I think we know that in this area. And it's going to change our planet and our society. We've heard it from the United Nations, and in the President's recently released Climate Action Plan. You're going to hear this again, and I'm glad you're discussing this today, and I'm very pleased that Congressman Swalwell and Garamendi will be here because they add such a key voice and focus on this whole issue around sea level rise and climate change. The work and the discussions that you're having today are vital ones, and I really thank you for choosing that focus. Jonathan is here from my staff, and I really want to thank him for being part of our overall efforts, and he will be available if any of you need to talk to me about any of the issues that come out of the conference, John and Scott, any of you, so that anything that we need to know when it comes to infrastructure, climate change, dredging, any of our water or transportation issues from a federal level, Jonathan will definitely make sure that we're very focused on the outcomes of your conference and your planning session today. So thank you again very much for inviting me to be with you, and good luck today on such an important moment that you really have come together to really actually give elected officials the kind of guidance that we need coming from our region. Thank you again.